you got some players at your disposal this year. You've got Alec Holler coming back.
Yeah.
You've got Kamore Gamble coming in. Just what's it like having two experienced players?
Yeah, well, the thing is with both of those guys, they got a lot of reps, game reps under their belt. Kamore obviously at another place, but having both of those guys in the room, it's really about figuring out how to use each one and what they each do best. And then we got another kid, Zach Wojan, he's really come along. He's improved a lot. And so Jordan Davis is another guy in that room that's really gotten better and come along. And so I'm excited about where the room is.
Okay, just talk about Alec Holler a little bit.
Absolutely.
I know all you guys were new last year, but he's a walk-on. Not a lot of people knew who he was prior to last season. Was that fun for you just to see a guy like that put in the work, develop? Yeah. He's a local guy, grew up following you. I mean, how fun was it to kind of see him develop game by game?
Yeah, well, first of all, Alec Holler's a great human being, just an unbelievable person. But I always pull for the underdog, and he's a guy that you didn't get attention in high school, came to the school that he absolutely loved, and he plays with a chip on his shoulder every day. He's trying to prove himself every day, and that's I think that's what makes him a good player, is that he always, no matter how much he does right, he still feels like he's got something to prove. And all he does every day, he shows up, he does what he's supposed to do at practice. He's a guy, and Coach Malzahn says it all the time, he's a guy that you put him on the field and you just feel confident. He knows what to do and that he's going to get it done.
Yeah, Kamore obviously has a lot of experience coming from Florida. What are your expectations for him? What kind of role do you see him fulfilling for your offense?
Yeah, he's a guy that is very, very talented, athletic. He's got some skills that's really hard to find in a body that big. Really good with the ball in his hand, does a great job running routes. For him, it's still about mastering the overall offense. And when you get guys that come from different places, terminology means different things, and sometimes they get those things confused and that kind of stuff. But he's really come in molded well with the team. I really enjoy coaching him. I think he's a guy that has big play potential for us. Definitely a guy that, and Coach Malzahn's all about the different weapons, and that's kind of his offense and the MO and with what he's done. And so I think he's a guy that definitely we're going to find ways to put the ball in his hand, and then he's physical enough to be a good blocker for us as well.
So being a receiving tight end, that's something that you're already seeing. Like you knew that coming in, that he was a big physical guy that can go get it.
Yep.
Talk about Zach Marchwasian a little bit. I know he's banged up a little bit last year. You mentioned him. How's he coming along?
He's doing really well, and Zach's a big, strong he's that big, strong physical presence that we needed. He's a guy that doesn't mind doing the dirty work. Will put his hand in the dirt, do some blocking for us, and a guy that was here when I got here, and just watching him grow and the improvement he's made. He's a guy that we feel very confident that if you put him on the field, he's going to do a great job for us.
Yeah, Coach Malzahn the other day complimented Jordan Davis, said he kind of had a transformation this summer physically.
Yeah.
I know he was kind of rehabbing still a knee last year. I know you just mentioned him at the onset. How is Jordan looking? Because he could be the future. You got some seniors, and maybe he's the future.
I really believe in Jordan Davis. I think he's a guy that athletically is as good as anybody we've got. Still a guy that's trying to get the confidence factor. Those guys that deal with those knee injuries, a lot of time it's about overcoming it more mentally, and that's really the struggle Jordan went through last year. He's come out, he's done a lot of really good things for us. I think he's a guy you're going to see play on a lot of special teams. He's a guy that continues to improve, and like you said, I think he's a guy that in the future is going to be a really good player at UCF. Local kid, wants to be here.
Yeah, talking about special teams, that's your other responsibility. What are some of those battles? Is it a kicking battle right now? I mean, I know Daniel's been here. You got some other guys in the mix that are new. What's that competition like?
Well, at the kicking position is Daniel's been here. He's got a lot of game reps and really finished the season with a good 3. I think he's 3 for 4 in the bowl game against Florida.
Yeah, big reason. I mean,
big reason why we won that game. But we believe in competition and that it makes everybody better. And so that was our goal this year, was to bring somebody in to push Daniel, make him better, make him the best version of himself. Colton Boomer came in the spring, did a great job for us, and we're going to have a battle. And the good thing about kicking, it's very it's cut and dry. I mean, you either make it or you don't. There's no subjectivity to it. It's just the numbers are what they are, and so those guys are out there and they're competing. But one thing about this place is all of our guys, it's healthy competition every day, and they pull for each other because there's not one thing that the other one does that would make it, it's not an offense defensive thing or where Colton's pulling against Daniel or Daniel's pulling against him. It's just, hey, let's go out there, be the best version of ourselves, and let it happen.
How hard is it to replicate the pressure? That's one position that everyone's screaming at you. The game's on the line. You're either at home or away. It doesn't matter. It's that hard. Like, you got a true freshman like Colton. It's that hard to do. Like, going into a season, we know Daniel's been there. He's gone through it. Is it hard to replicate?
Well, I don't know if there's a way to put him in an end of the game, win it or lose it scenario at practice. Now, I will say this: Coach Malzahn does a tremendous job. He's the pressure coach. He stands behind them every day at practice, and he's the guy trying to rattle them a little bit, put some pressure on them. We like to get a few live kicks in the scrimmages just to put them in those kind of situations, and so you try to do the best you can to simulate that. But as far as being able to just line up with the game on the line, I think that's just one of those things you have to do.
Yeah, punter-wise, I know Andrew's got a lot of experience, and you brought in an Aussie punter. I know there's some other guys that might be a unique look. What's that competition looking like?
Well, Andrew's the guy. He's our starter right now, but again, we brought in some guys to compete against him. Andrew is a guy that we have high expectations for. We're trying to mold our punt a little bit more around his skills and talents, and then we brought in a punter from Australia, Mitch McCarthy, who's doing a great job of he's just trying to acclimate himself to the United States. But a guy that's older, I mean, he's almost 25-year-old freshman and been playing professional Australian rules ball over in overseas, and so coming in, he's still got to learn the game. But he has a very talented leg, and a guy that is doing a great job for us. And then Garen Bonio's done some good things in camp.
Yeah, so with Mitch, he's obviously a rugby player. Right. Come from Australia. When did you kind of take notice? Because there's different guys in college football that really do well with that, and they usually come from Australia and that background. I mean, is that something you're like, this could be an interesting option for us? Maybe we can find. How did that kind of process work out?
Well, Coach Malzahn, when he was at Auburn, had an Australian punter, and in fact, I think he's had a couple of them that were very good. And so we started identifying, that what it does is it just gives you opportunities to change the launch point where they're not always rushing the same spot. So if you always sit and punt from the same spot, then people dial up their rushes against you. And so just having the opportunity to do that, to move that, and so that's, he does punt from behind the center as well, but obviously his strong suit is rolling out because that's what he's done his whole life in this other game.
How reassuring is it to have a player like Alex Ward? I mean, to say he's the best in the nation, but he really is.
He really is. He's the best in the nation, but not just because of what he does on the field. He's the unquestioned leader in the specialist room. He's a guy that makes our punters better, makes our kickers better, makes our holder better, does everything you ask him to, and from a coverage aspect. I think he's one of the better leaders on this football team. Again, a guy that you trust. And as far as his position, I don't think there's anybody in this country that's even close to better, as good as him.
Last thing, you look at the success UCF's having on the recruiting trail, hometown hero, I knew you're out, recruiting a lot of these guys. What's the response been? Obviously, you guys have been having a lot of success here lately.
Yeah, that was our focus when we got here. Our challenge Coach Malzahn gave us was we're going to spend time making our hometown schools important to us. I'm an old high school coach, so I have a lot in common with these guys, and I know what they're going through on a day-to-day basis. And we're recruiting the schools locally, even if they don't have players that can play for us right now, because they're important to us, and they will. And so our goal is to put a program and a quality product on the field good enough that every kid in what we call the state of Orlando wants to stay at home, wants to play here. That's been our challenge since the day we got here with Coach Malzahn, and so it's been a lot of fun, and the reception has been great. I think all the high school coaches in this area do a great job. At least the schools that I visit, they're talking about UCF now in the same sentences that they were some of the other schools in this state.
I appreciate your time, Coach.
You got it.